everybody, and welcome to the Dice Hour. I'm Tom Vasel, and welcome to Look Back. This is where we go back a year, and 5 years, and 10 years, and I talk about the reviews I did then, and kind of tell you what I think about them now, if I think about them at all. So we'll start with 1 year ago. First, we had the Dingo Ate My Baby. Not only was this game just not a good game at all, it's a bad bluffing game, or kind of it's a blackjack style game, I'm sorry. That just wasn't very good. Once I published a review, I found out that it was a very negative theme, especially to those who live in Australia. All in, this is a game where you're trying to tell if someone's lying or not. Oh my goodness, there are so many of these games out there. Stop making them. 3 Secrets. There's a lot of games that I apparently didn't like that much a year ago. 3 Secrets was an interesting little game, though. It's a card game, and you are asking questions, yes or no questions, to find out what's going on in this card. And there's 3 things that you're trying to figure out. But it's just kind of ambiguous, and you're just asking until they're yes or no questions until you figure it out. Meh. Castellers. Now, unfortunately for the little game, not only was this not a tremendously great game to begin with, you're building cards. The Castell, building a human castles was a pretty cool idea, but Renegade just came out with one, so there's no reason to ever go back and play this card game because the board game was so much better. Hamster Clan. This is a kid's game that has some really neat ideas, like, hey, look, we're moving through a wheel, we're going up and down this elevator, but it's just basically luck. Time Stories Lumen Fide. Now, this is a fairly low score for me for Time Stories, but part of that is because this Time Stories is broken into 3 acts, and the second act I found incredibly frustrating. The third act was good, although, again, there's a misprint in the game, and that could have been problematic, but it just wasn't as exciting for me, and this is honestly the point where Time Stories started falling for me, I think, overall. Then we have, let's see, Zoo Ball. This is a flicking game where you have a mat and you flick things around on it. I've dropped it a little because it is literally a mat and you flick things around. Don't get me wrong, I still really like flicking games, and this one is fine. I'm just not sure it's that so special that I'm going to go back and check it out very much. On the other hand, Quick Cups. This is a silly little game where you're stacking cups. Very popular sport to stack cups, and this game you're just stacking them based on the pictures on the cards. I find that this one is extremely fun, especially with kids. Then we have Laser Riders. This is Tron, the board game. Now, it's a little slower than it could be. In fact, I'll be reviewing a game this week that I think, or next week maybe, that does the job slightly better than this game, but it still holds up really well. Has a very retro 80s feel, which I think a lot of people are going to like. Then we have Dice Forge. Oh man, I really enjoyed Dice Forge. This game of building your own dice. I'm still looking for an expansion for this game, for more sides of the dice, but just as a base game, the idea of rolling dice and then getting money and then using that money to buy more sides of the dice, and the dice are kind of like Lego dice, just a great one, and it's a lot of fun. Flip Ships. Jason and I took a look at this one where it's a dexterity game where you're flipping ships, but it's also cooperative. It feels like Space Invaders, and you're essentially flipping your ships off the edge of the table, trying to land on cards. Silly, but I thought it was great fun. And then I took a look at 1960 Making of a President. This was not a new game, but was a new version of the classic game that came out. I think there's another version coming this year. There's always a new version of this game. But 1960, describing a very close presidential race. Really enjoy this one. It's a lesser complexity than it's the game that's based on, Twilight Struggle. But this one is a lot of fun. I think it's even more fun for me thematically, and the components for the new one were really nice. All right, now let's jump back 5 years ago. First of all, we have Sparta, which was an incredibly bland game. It's an abstract strategy game. It looks like a war game, but it's abstract. Nah. Buffalo, here we have yet another one of these party games where you're just trying to name things and argue over things, and again, it's a very forgettable style game. That's it. Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, I was about to say a joke, but there's no really good joke there. That's It's a fine game. You're trying to shout out things on a card, and you're trying to pick the exact one that the card says. Like, name a breakfast cereal. Oh, Wheaties. No, that's not the one the card says. Oh, it's Cheerios. Something like that effect. It's okay as a party game. Zombiepox. I dropped this one. I was much nicer to it 5 years ago than I would be now. It's an okay game at best, but the components are very poor, and I would not be nearly as kind to that today for that reason. Vampire Empire. which I think they said, just so you could say it, Vampire, Empire, Vampire, Empire. It's a 2-player asymmetrical game, has some interesting ideas back and forth. This was came out when Stronghold was just getting a foothold in the market. I mean, it was actually from White Goblin, but it's a unique, interesting game, just not one I'm going to probably play much these days. Then we have Monster Cafe. This is a fun little kids game. I consider it a kids game where you're trying to control things by placing monsters around them. My Happy Farm. I was really impressed with this game. As you're building long animals, I mean, that's kind of the gimmick to the game, right? To build these long animals, and the longer your cow is. And that's silly and fun, but there was actually a pretty solid, light game behind it of getting resources to be able to make you have different types of animals. Castle Dice. This is a game that got an expansion. I think it was more castles. They needed more dice. I was looking for that. But still the idea of rolling a bunch of dice and then drafting these dice, people going around the table using these dice to do different actions. I found that very fascinating, and it worked really well. Box still too big, though. And Forbidden Desert. Forbidden Desert, the sequel to Forbidden Island. I think Forbidden Desert is better. I remember distinctly playing this game and thinking, wow, really cool idea here. I mean, it's kind of based on the movie Flight of the Phoenix, but the idea of the sand shifting around and finding this hidden ship, it's such a great cooperative game with really cool components. 10 years ago, I took a look at Blackbeard. This pirate game from Richard Berg has not aged well, and it ages less well all the time. Because, hey, who doesn't want to be a pirate? Arr! Who doesn't want to have to worry about getting scurvy? Arr! Yeah, it's realistic pirate, and it's so staggered in rules and exceptions, and it's just not that fantastic of a game. Can't recommend it. Bacchus's Banquet. This is a game in which you are basically offering each other people cards, and they take it or not, and there might be poison on the card or not, and so it's a silly game. It's a game where you're basically saying, take this card. Do you want it? No? Yes, you do. That sort of thing. And that's okay. It works to a point. It's a game I would say, nah, I don't know that I would go out of my way to ask for it. Those are the reviews I did 1, 5, and 10 years ago. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel. This has been Look Back on the Dice Tower.